Hi, my name is Anita Moore and I'm a decorative painter. And today I want to share with you one of my projects that's on my website. And it's a new pattern packet. It's a Blue Jay and it's painted with DecoArt traditional paint. It's on the wood panel. You can paint on both sides. And today I want to do a little project and it's called Create. So it's with the stupendous stamps and our journal book. And you can also paint these on little tags. I cut them out of cardboard. And so I have a variety of stamps and they're good for beginners. So I'm excited to do this project with you. And so let's get started. I'm going to change my camera around. Okay, and I have here, it's a Grum Badger book. So let me just show you here. And it's a 5.5 by 8.5. And I've already gessoed my paper. So I used, let me just put this aside. I used DecoArt gesso media. And it's all dry and ready to go. So I'm going to use this stamp set and it's called Rose Friends from Stupendous. You can get this on Painting with Deb's website. I just want to tone down my light here. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. And I also use, today it's going to be Americana paint from DecoArt. I'm going to be using some black gold brushes from Dynasty. So I will, there's no patterns for this project. It's all freehand. That's what art journaling is all about. And we're going to be using some Ranger Archival ink, jet black. I have a large block for my stamp here. So I'm going to be using this one right here. Okay, I'm going to place it here. And I like to use a paper just to ink a couple times on it so that it's fully loaded with ink. So I'm gonna make sure I have completely inked my stamp. So we're gonna do this a couple times just to make sure it's fully loaded. So a little bit more. And I also like to take the lid off just so I can apply pressure on my ink. Okay, let's do this again. It's a little bit better. A little bit more right here. Okay, let's try this one more time. Adding pressure to the block there, that's a little bit better. So it'll be ready to ink on my project here. Making sure I got ink everywhere. And I'm going to place this right about here because we're going to add some leaves on here. Adding pressure. I'm trying not to jiggle my block. Oh, that's very nice. Okay. So now I'm going to apply some leaves. There's 3 different kinds. You can add whichever one you want. I'm going to add a big one and a little one. So I'm going to take a smaller block. My paper here. So what I did was I took a cardboard, I re-inked the flower. So this way here, you can cover your flower so that you can place the leaves on it. So I have a smaller block here. I'm going to take the big leaf and add some ink. Okay, I'm just going to ink a couple times. That looks good. So I'm going to add this right about here. So I'm going to hold on to my leaf, whoops, my flower here. And I'm going to add it about here. Okay, now I'm going to take a smaller leaf. Same thing, I'm going to add ink, test it on my paper. Okay, I'm going to hold my stamp here, or my paper, and right about here. I went a little closer to the edge, but that's okay. Okay, so let's move this aside. Okay, I'm going to close my lid here. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is, I got ink all over my fingers. I want to just wipe my hands so that I don't get extra ink on my paper here. Okay, so on here, I did like a watercolor little effect in the background, and I used Laguna. It's a very pretty color. And how to do that, I want to make sure my ink is dry. I sprayed the paper a little bit here. Okay, and I'm going to apply some of this paint on my palette. Okay, and I'm going to water down my paint a little bit, and I'm going to use a it's a half flat wash from Black Gold. So I'm going to wet my brush. Okay, I'm going to wet the paint, water down the paint a little bit here, and I'm going to just go lightly around my flower here. Let the paint run loosely on the paper. You can also move it around if you have a lot of puddles of water on here. Okay, let's water this down a little bit more. Just go gently around your flower. Okay, I'm just going to water this just a little bit, just so the paint can run into. If you get some on your stamp, just take a cloth or a baby wipe and just dab on it. It'll disappear. Okay, let me just make the. So it takes a lot of water. Okay, I'm going to go on to this side here. I'm going to add a little bit of brown to this. And I'm making it loosely run. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more water. Okay, and then while it's wet, I'm going to grab some white, some brown, and this one is with burnt sienna. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to add watered down paint. So I'm going to apply some on my palette here. Water brush just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to water down my paint, and I'm going to add some to the sides here. And again, just water it down just so that the brown runs just a little bit there. This just gives me a watercolor effect in the background. Okay. So just want to got a big puddle here. Okay, I got some of my flour. Let's wipe this off. And water this down just a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this so that we can move on to our next step. Okay, and I'll be right back. My paper is dry. It does take a while because of the amount of water that we put on it. So on my original paper here, I have a little bit more brown around it. So I want to go ahead and float a little bit more burnt sienna on the edges. So I'm going to use the same flat wash brush, and I'm just going to water it down just a little bit more, and just like it doesn't have to be perfect, just so you can add some more brown. So if you don't want to soften it, just add a little bit more water. And I'm going to add some to the edge here. Okay, and then we'll darken this up with some ink. Okay, a little bit more here. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. Okay, we're going to let that dry. And I'm just going to wipe a little bit of my background here. Okay, so I used a, it's like a little checkered stencil, and it's from Studio R12, and it's called Small Diamonds Mini Pattern Stencil, and it's STCL 719. Okay, and I'm going to use, I can use Liguana and darken it a little bit more with the teal green. So I'm going to add a fresh puddle because that one there is just a little watered down. Okay, so I added some teal green. You just need a little bit. And we're going to be using the Stencil Pro brushes here. I have a small one and it's a 1/4 inch. You need some, I use the Blue Shop paper towel. So I'm going to take the Liguana. I'm going to load my brush. I'm going to dry as much as I can onto my paper towel because you're doing dry brushing. So in circular motion, changing direction, I'm going to add some checkers. I'm going to move my stencil around. Okay, and we're going to apply some darker blue. I'm happy with what I have. You can apply some to the edges as well. Okay, I'm going to move on to the darker blue, teal green. I'm going to load my brush. You can keep it dirty as well because it's just a darker blue, or green, I should say. And you can go over the Liguana as well. It doesn't have to be like in different sections here. There, you can add some over top of the blue. It makes it really pretty. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit here. Okay, and I think I'm going to add a little bit down here. Again, it's not perfect little squares. You got little checkers everywhere. Just a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush a little bit here, there. I want to add some gold. So I used the Extreme Sheen gold 24 karat. So we're going to add some gold checkers to this. So I kept my brush, I wiped as much as I could on my my bristles. Okay, and I'm going to load it. Okay, in different little areas here. Okay, I load it every time. Oops. Okay, and maybe a couple here, wherever you want. There, I think that's very pretty. Okay, so we're done with the little checkered stencil, and it's always good to just clean it off a little bit until you can wash it with soap and water, especially when you're using shimmer. So I'm just going to wipe this until I'm able to clean it with some soap and water. Okay, move that aside. Okay, and so now I want to darken the edges a little bit more. Let's just dry the checkers just a little bit here. Okay, to darken the edge, I used, it's a StazOn, it's timber brown. So what I do is I lift up my paper and I'm going to rub it all along the edge. And I like to have darker corners as well. So just lay it flat and just rub on the edge. And the felt leaves like a little mark on there, makes it really distress. I like that. So I can just darken the edge just a little bit more here. It's just a little harder when the paper's a little damp. Okay. So I'm gonna put my lid back on. And we're gonna work with the flower now. So the first coat that I applied on my flower is it's called bubblegum pink. So we're going to add layers. You can use any pink that you want. Mix it your flower. So I'm going to add some on my palette here. And we're going to use a number 5 round brush. Okay, so I'm going to wet my brush here. And I'm going to load my bristle. Okay, so I like to do one petal at a time, especially when you're painting on a stamp, so that you don't lose your ink. So I'm just going to water this down just a little bit. So I did each little petal, just so I don't lose my outline of my ink. Okay. And it doesn't have to be like a solid color. Okay. So I did that for each petal. I'm going to take some off of this one here. It's very dark. Put some over my line here. Okay, you just need a little bit on your bristles. You don't need a whole lot of paint. It goes a long ways when it's watered down. Okay, so I did on like everything. And I like to go in the same direction. I don't flip my bristles around. I leave it always going in the direction of the petal. Okay, so you'll know that you'll need water on your brush when it starts to, the paint starts to drag. So I'm just going to wet my bristles. Dark here. And when it dries, it tones down on the color. It's not as bright. So this project here, it's like really great for beginners. You make it your own. Art journaling is fun. It's relaxing. I can tell my my leaf here, I went off a little bit on my flowers. So I'll have to darken the stem on it. Okay, and we only need the one coat because we're going to add some floats and highlights to this. I think I'm going to add a little bit more water. It's a little dark. Just take some off. Okay, so I have my petal all painted, first coat. Okay, so let's dry this. I didn't paint the center. You will leave that blank till we base coat it with a different color. Okay, so we're going to add our first layer of shading, and it's going to be done with the Royal Fuchsia. Okay, and I used an angle brush. You can use a shader if you like better shaders. So I'm going to use a 3/8 angle brush. I'm just going to wet this. Okay, so I'm going to load with the toe and then just go back and forth on my palette, fully load it. And so what we're going to do is float along the little center here, all these petals. Okay, on the top part. And then we're going to keep going back and forth. I'm going to float along this little lip here where the petal is folded. Okay, and if you want to soften your floats, just use a little mop brush and you pounce on it. This will soften your lines. So everywhere you see a petal that is floated, you're going to paint, you're going to float along your creases. So load my brush. So right here, and this is choppy floats, okay? We're going to add a deeper float as well. Okay, and we're going to go along this side here. Soften this up. So there's another little flip on this one here. So I'm going to just go along the edge here. Okay. Soften it up. And then over here, I'm going to go along the side here to the center. I'm going to go underneath this lip and lift up my toe and just blend to the end right here. Okay, over here, same thing. I'm going to go underneath the lip. Okay, I'm going to soften this up. You can see okay. Okay, and then I'm going to go along the edge over here. So they're really choppy, walking the float out. Just pounce on your floats with your mop brush and wipe it, your bristles on a paper towel just to remove excess paint. So turn my piece around. I'm gonna float on the top part here and turn the bristle aside. Okay, over here. I got a little bit off my edge here. I'm just going to water it down. Okay, and then I'm going to walk it out over here. Okay, and over here. So everywhere you see a petal, go along the edges at the bottom. If you have a flip, go underneath the little lip of the petal. And just soften it. I'm constantly loading fresh paint on my bristles when I float. Okay, along underneath there. Okay, so we're done with the first layer of floats. We're gonna let that dry. And then we're gonna darken that. So let's just dry this up a little bit here. Okay, so we're going to use deep burgundy. I'm going to add some to my palette. Okay, using the same brush. Okay, I'm going to load with deep burgundy, and this is dark, so make sure you really work your bristles on your palette. Okay, so again, I'm going to repeat what I just did. Okay, work it all along the top of the center here. And along my creases. Okay, and I'm just going to tap just to soften up my floats. On the edges. And you walk it out so you don't have a harsh line when you're floating. Okay. And then right behind here. Oops, I got some over my petal here. Just wipe it off with a clean brush. Okay, right along here. Okay, my brush just deepens your float and your shading. It's really pretty. Okay, over here. Orchid. I forgot to do this one right here. Okay, and I'm going to turn this around. Up the toe, go into the little cracks of the petals there. Okay, soften this up. Again, just wipe your mop brush on the paper towel once in a while just to remove water, excess paint. Okay, we're almost done. I got a petal over here. Taking this up. And I like to go over the top folded part right here. Let's clean this up a little bit here. Okay. Walk it a little bit to the center. Okay. And one more little fold over here. Just clean the brush. Okay, I'm going to darken this little one right here. And this little fold right here, we're going to go over this part here. Okay, so I've added my second floats. Okay, I just want to cover this part here. So now we're going to dry this and we're going to add some highlights to this. Okay, so let's dry that up. Okay, so for my highlights, I used baby blush, and I'm going to apply some on my palette. Okay, I use the same angle brush. If you prefer to go a little wider, you can use a half inch angle. I'm going to try that because I want my floats to really tone down some of the darkness. So I'm going to load here with some blush pink. Okay, and I'm going to start at the top here. So just walking it out. Okay. So this will tone down some of your floats. Okay. So over here, I'm going to go along the edge. Okay. I'm going to try not to go on my ink, like the black line. I don't want to lose it. Okay. And then over here, just a little bit on the top. Okay, and so when you have a fold, this is where you're going to add along the little top of the fold. Okay, this just tones it down, just like that. Okay, and like same with this one over here. Okay, I'm just going to lift up my toe just a little bit and just blend that in here. And right over here. This is going to be a little bit brighter than the rest. Okay, over here. Again, I got a little lip over here. Let's brighten this up. Okay, and then this one right here, I just want to do this little part here. Okay, I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit more here. Okay, this lip here, so it's flipped over this way, so I want to go on the bottom part. Okay, let's brighten that up on the bottom part. Just lift it up, lift up your toe, and we can brighten this up with some warm white as well. So over here, we're going to add some here. Okay, let me just turn this around. I like it better when it's towards me. Okay, just walk it out into the shading there. Over here. And then we have a low lip right here. And just walk this one up. We'll brighten that up a little bit more. So over here, we're going to, right here. Okay, and I have this little petal. Oh, I think I missed one right there too. Okay, right over here. Okay, I think I got every little petal. I think I missed one right here. Okay. We don't do one there. Okay, so let's dry that up, and we're going to add some white highlights just to brighten up the highlights. Okay, so Let's just dry this up a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to put some warm white. Okay, I'm going to use the same 1/2-inch angle brush for this as well. And we're not going to go on all of them. We just need to brighten up maybe just the top area. Okay, so I'm going to load. Okay, I just want to highlight like more of the top area. Like this one right here. Okay, and I also want to highlight like the folds right here. Okay, over here. And this right here. Okay, the fold over here. Okay, if you want a smaller brush, just use your other angle brush with 3/8. I just want to get more of the fold over here. And again, if you need to tone it down, just use your mop brush, okay? We're going to do this one right over here. This little flip over here. Okay, and tone that down. And I think I'm okay with this. So if you can see, you got different little colors on here. Okay, so now we're going to do our leaf. Okay, and I used kitchen green, very pretty green. So let's add that. And I use my round brush to load a leaf. Okay, so again, you don't need a whole lot of, doesn't have to be solid. We're gonna add some floats to this. So I'm gonna do the other one. All right. So there's my bisco. It's just one little color there. Okay, so let's dry that. Okay, we're going to add some floats with forest green. Okay, and you can use the 1/2-inch angle brush. So I'm going to load my bristle here. Okay, so what I want to do is float along the edge here. Okay, and just tone it down. Use your mop brush. And along this flower here. I'll get to the corner. Okay, and I'm gonna just dry that up just a little bit there. Okay, and then just go down to the center, the bottom half, and just turn your toe so that it leaves a finer point right there. Okay, so walk it out and then just turn it so that you have a tip. Okay. And then the light green makes your little highlights. We don't really need a highlight there, but on the top part, what I'm going to do, because it's so just too much of a color, what I want to do is just walk it out, but not right to the end. I just want to walk it out to like the center part right here. Turn your toe and just to the edge. There, that makes your center a little darker, okay? So sometimes your little outline on your flower could disappear. So you can use a permanent marker. I got Staedtler, or you can use the Identipen. So what you would do is just lightly go over some of your petals where you've lost some of your black outline. Doesn't have to all be done, just where you find it's not as dark. You can add the lines if you want. Okay, that just makes it brighter. Right over here. A little bit over here. So just go around where you find you need it. Okay, over here. And because my my leaf didn't go right close to the flower, I'm just going to make the stem right here just a little bit wider at the end, just to make it look like it got attached to it. Okay, so we're going to paint the center of the flower here. Sometimes when I do this, I can't stop. I just got to keep going and do the whole flower. Okay. So the center, all I did was I took my little, my round brush and I dabbed some citron green on it. So just dab some green. Okay, and you can leave your brush dirty and just float along like the little bottom area. Okay, so the wording that I did for my page is called Create. So I used one of Studio R12's stencil here. It's got a bunch of different words. And I had the word create. I turn this around. Right here on the top. So that I don't get other words on my page while I stencil, what I did was I took some painter's tape and I covered some of the letters off the other word. So I covered this all up. And I think I'll have to put some here. Right here. Okay, so now I'll only have the word create. Okay, so I just want to move a little bit of this aside. Okay, so you have choice. It's an option. What I did was I took some modeling paste from Deco Art Media, and it's white. But I found that it wasn't like white enough. So what you can do is add more white paint to this to make it brighter. Or if you don't want to use the paste, then you can just just stencil right on it with warm white and repeat until like it's fully solid. So I'm going to show you the paste, and I'm going to turn my palette around just a little bit here so that I have a fresh little section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my palette knife. Okay, I'm going to take some of this modeling paste, so about that much. I'm going to put it on my palette. I'm going to take some warm white paint, and I'm going to mix a little bit of that with it, just so that when I add it, it'll be a little bit more brighter. You can also add sparkles to this too. That would be pretty. So I'm just going to mix this up really good. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes it much brighter. Alrighty. So I'm going to place my stencil where I want my lettering. And so I'm going to add some to my flower here, the word create. And if you don't want this to move while you're applying paste, take another tape, okay, and just tape it to the paper in your work area so that it doesn't move, okay? So I took some on my palette, okay, and I'm going to apply a layer of this onto my stencil and just lightly hold it down and add a thick layer, okay? Okay. So, oops. Let's lift this up. Now, when you remove this, lift it up straight up, okay? And remove your tape. So that is brighter than the other one that I have. Okay, so I'm going to move this aside just so I can clean off my stencil. So I'm going to take a baby wipe because you don't want this paste to dry on your stencils. So just wipe it with baby wipe. Okay, turn it around. Okay, so that's good. And just wash this off just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put my paste back in my jar. I'm going to put my little saran wrap on here. This makes my paste not dry as fast. So I put that back on and clean your palette knife so that it doesn't dry up on here. Okay, so now we're going to dry the word create. So this might take a while. On my YouTube channel, I have other art journal pages if you want to follow along. Some of them are my own design and some of them are stamps from Stampendas. Okay, this might take a while. I'm just going to pause and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've dried my letters, and to make this pop up a little bit more, I'm going to use my permanent ink, and I'm going to outline my letter. And you can add like wiggly little lines if you wish. They don't have to be solid little lines, okay? So I went all around my letter. I even went on top of my flower here, okay? So going, oops, that one was still a little wet. So this just makes it pop out. Okay, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Okay. This is still a little wet. I put my pen right in it. So I suggest that it's really dry before you do this. And try not to put your hand on the other letters. Okay, got 2 more letters here. Oops, trying to touch it. Okay, so it's not perfect. I got wiggly little lines all around it. Okay, so now what I didn't spatter on this, but I find it need a little bit more color. So I'm going to spatter with a dark color and some white. So I really like the teal green. So I'm going to add a little bit more on my palette. I'm going to spatter some color. Okay. So I like using a fan brush when I spatter. So I'm just going to wet my brush. Okay. I leave the water in it, but just take out a little bit. And I'm going to load my bristles like this. Okay. So it's all watered down. Okay. And what I'm going to do is you take another brush and you tap the ferrule. Okay. And if you don't want any on your flower, then just avoid it a little bit there. Okay. And if you want it like watered down, just take a paper towel and just dab on your specks. Okay. Now let's rinse this off and do the same with some white. So I'm going to load my brush with white. Okay, the more watery it is, the bigger your specks are going to be. Okay. Okay, and again, I'm just going to take, I don't mind them on my flower. I think it's okay. I'm going to take my paper towel here and dab on my specks. It'll leave like a little water color effect. So you see that? Okay, now I think I got everything that I have on my project. Okay, so please follow, like, and share my YouTube videos. I look forward to making more projects. Check out my website. I'll have all the links down below. And thank you for joining me.